Welcome csc200, and I'm going to try to walk you through setting up the Goorm IDE. And I've had some issues with this, and I wasn't sure about using it, but I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to record this as I do it, making a brand new account, just so if I do encounter problems, you'll see me encounter them, and if it's too many problems to deal with, then we'll have to just work with amps. But I'd like to use this because it's a lot like Cloud9, it's free, and then we can share things very easily online. But there's not a lot of support for this, so I've had to do a lot of experimenting with it in order to get to the point where I can try and record what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to start from scratch with a brand new account, and I'm going to sign up. And I'm going to use a password that I'm familiar with, and I'm going to use a username. And you do have to send a verification, but I could hit agree. If you don't want any emails or anything, you don't have to check that. And before you sign up, you'll get an error. If you try to sign up, it'll say click send verification email. So I'm going to send this right now. And there's my email that just came in. And I'm going to confirm my email address. And it's saying it's completed, so I could go back and sign up. I could close this window and go back here. And now it says verification completed. I should be able to sign up. I'm not going to save anything. You don't have to do anything here. And when you come into here, we're going to be making something called a container. That's going to be like a directory or folder where we're going to have all our stuff. We can put multiple exercises in that container. And we also have a dashboard. Now, we don't have any containers yet, so I'm going to request container approval. You might be thinking, wow, what do I have to do here? Just request container approval, and it shouldn't take long. And I'm just going to put in here, I'm just going to put I'm a WCCC student. I'm a WCCC student in a database class learning PHP and SQL. Oh, there's a minimum of 100 words. I didn't realize that. There's a minimum here. I am... All right, so you need at least 100 words here, so I have that. And I'm going to hit submit. And it'll say processing request. Now, I haven't had it take that long. Sometimes if you sit around and wait, it's going to take a while. So if you go do something or whatever, but I don't know, let me just try something, because when I actually went and changed the language, it actually let me create a container. So let me just do that. Let me just go to a language and choose English. And that did not work. Last time when I did it, it actually went through and said, you know, new container. So when you get new container, you're going to create a new container. So I'll stop this here and I'll take a little break. And then when the request is processed, we're going to go and create a new container. Okay, I'm back, and it now says new container. And in order to help that out, it still said processing, and or whatever it was waiting to say. And when I clicked on English, it came back and it said new container. So this is where I'm going to make a new container. And keep in mind, I had instructions for all these things in here, and it seems like they change even if you put them in here. So I'll just do some of the defaults right now. I'm going to have you name your container Goorm PHP. We're going to do that for now. Then you're going to put like dash your last name when you do your URL. But just for now, just call it Goorm PHP. And you could just put PHP and MySQL. You don't need to have that. Use Oregon for the US. You don't have to put anything here. It'll be public by default. Deployment, don't worry about that yet. When you get to stack, we are going to choose PHP. And then down at the bottom, we're going to check install MySQL. Don't worry about this. And we are going to have to do some updates and some certain things. I have a little list of things I'm going to go through, and we'll see how that works. So after we have these checked, and again, Goorm PHP, we'll just call it our container for now. And you can only have one container running at a time. I think you can have 5 containers, but only one running at one time. We're going to hit create. And here it is. You can either go to dashboard or you could just run the container. I'm going to run the container. And I'm getting a message that says cannot write project file, and that's okay. I'm just going to hit OK. And I'm just going to go back. I'm going to close this up. And I'm just going to go back to my dashboard. And I'm just going to run it from here. I'll make sure that little green light's on. and I'll just run it again. So it had these two tabs open. I closed the one. I'll just hit run again, and I shouldn't get that message. And this should look like typical IDEs. It could look like Visual Studio Code, anything like that. We have down at the bottom here, we have our terminal. That this thing kind of goes up and down, and you can resize it by going in between here if you need. And I'll move it up a little because we're not going to be doing any coding up here right now. I'll make myself some more room right here. And now we're seeing our container file here, our project, our Goorm PHP, and that's what we want to see. That's why I just went out of that and came back in. So that should be okay right now. And I don't think there's anything in there but a PHP file, just a basic one. If you double click on it, it'll load a little PHP file, and it's a little test. So if you see contents here, hello Goorm, or if you see contents here, you'll know that it's a PHP file because there's PHP that's inside of HTML. There's little tags in there, and you can make this stuff bigger. So you could do, I think if you're on a Mac, Command plus, and I'll go down here and do Command plus, and it would be Control plus on Windows. So I'll just resize this a little bit. I'll close this up. I don't need this open right now. And remember, this should say like root at Goorm, your workspace, and then your project name that you created here. And now this is your bash console. We're also going to work in your MySQL console, but this is your bash right now. So what you're going to start off to do, I have this text file, and I'll show you where to get this. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this first line here, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to paste it here. Notice the pound sign is there, so I'm not copying that. And I'm just going to update my MySQL right now. And then I'll just hit enter, just like we do in the console. And if it asks to continue, I'm just going to put in Y. And then after it gets to this point, I'm going to restart my Apache, which if you're not sure how to do that, that'll be the next thing on the list. You're just going to go down the list and do these, and this will restart the Apache. And then we're going to start our MySQL as well. So I'm going to restart Apache. And then I'm going to start MySQL. That's what this is going to do. This is going to start it. So we're going to run it, and then we're going to try to get into the console and try it out. And we'll see how this works. And this is where we could see if we're going to be able to run MySQL. And we'll just type in MySQL. You don't have to copy that. I think on here I have it, the next step here. And that's the console when you see that little greater than sign. But I'm going to do that. And what should happen is it should go into the MySQL console. And this is where we can create databases and do all that kind of stuff. And all I want to do right now is just exit. So you can just exit out of there right now. Just type in exit lowercase, hit enter, and take us back out to the bash console. And then I'm going to install phpMyAdmin, which is a tool we're going to use to manage our databases. We don't have to use it, but I'd like you to have the experience of doing it. So I went through a lot to get this to work. So we're hoping that this is going to work. And I'm going to paste that there and hit enter. And when this pops up, hit number 1 for Apache 2. So you just have to put in number 1 and hit enter. And when this comes up asking a question about dbconfig common, just type in yes and hit enter. And then it's going to ask for a phpMyAdmin password, and you're just going to use root, R-O-O-T, and you won't see it. It'll be hidden when you do it. And you're just going to type, and it's lowercase, so it's just R-O-O-T, and then hit enter. And then once again, same thing, R-O-O-T, enter. And now we're back out at our prompt again for our bash prompt. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to update this MB string because I was getting an error every time we installed it. So if we come back over here, if I go down the steps here, it's going to be this one right here, this sudo apt get install. And I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste that here and hit enter. And then finally, I'm going to do the restart again. The Apache restart, which is the web server. It says service Apache 2 restart. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste this. And I'm back here now. And what we're going to do is we're going to try going back into the MySQL console. And that just means typing MySQL. So that brings us right about here. I'll have these numbered on a sheet, but you can just go down and do these. So we're going to hopefully get into MySQL here. And we're in MySQL, and we're not going to do anything right now. We're just activating MySQL so it's running. And what we're going to do is go to, well, let's look at this just to make sure. We're going to check the URL, and we might even change it too on this running URL and port. And you might not know what that means, but if you go up here to project and go to running URL and port, and you'll see a URL down here, and it'll say Goorm PHP dash and then some random letters and then .run -us. Like that part is up here. And what you're going to do is you're going to delete this. Just hit the red trash can, and do you want to delete that domain address? And then you're going to go up here and register a new domain, and you're going to just use this Goorm PHP, and then you could just dash, and I'm going to put my last name here. I'm going to put Homa RC, and I'm just going to put my username right here. You could put your username or just your last name, however you want to do that. That'll show up in your URL instead of those random numbers. And then also put 80 here, even though it had 80 before. We're going to put port 80. So you're putting in just this part of the URL and 80, and then you're going to hit register. And there it is. You should see it with your name in there, or your username or your last name, whatever. And then just hit apply. And then OK. Now, we'll see what happens here, because this is where I always run into a problem. To launch phpMyAdmin, we're going to go back to where we just were in here, open this up, and this little button here is going to launch that page in a new tab. So when we click this, it'll launch it in a new tab. So I'm just going to click on this. There it is. And what you should see, the first part is good, because we can see, that means our Apache server is running, and if you click on here, you should see contents here. Contents here means your PHP is active, it's running. So that's a good thing. Now what I also want to do is go here at the end, and I could even go back here to where it was initially, because I think it should be here. Actually, it should be here. It should be on this domain of your URL. You shouldn't go in here. You could go in here to check it out, but then go back, and right after the goorm.io, I'm going to hit / and then phpMyAdmin, and we're going to hit enter, and hopefully we should see a login to do that. Hopefully we won't see an error. If we see an error, I'll probably have to stop the recording and try and fix it, but let's hope that we see the login. And beautiful. That's what we want to see. And we want to go in here and type phpMyAdmin, and we want to type in root and hit go. And so far we're seeing what we want to see, so this is a good sign. Now we only see 2 things here. We want to see a couple things here. We want to see like 5 things here. And if we go to databases here, this is where you can actually create databases, and notice that there's no area to create a new database where you usually do this, and it says no privileges. Well, luckily that's easy to fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out. If you go to this thing, you can log out. So I'm going to log out, and I'm going to go back here, and I could just hit OK with this. I don't need this open anymore. And I'm still in MySQL, and I want to stay in MySQL because this is going to be a MySQL. It's not really a query, but it's a command in MySQL. And what it's going to be, if I go back here, it's going to be this grant all privileges with grant option. So following through here, everything worked out okay. I logged in with phpMyAdmin root, and there were only 2 items. We saw that. Now we're going to copy this, and this should grant all kinds of privileges to be able to do whatever we want in phpMyAdmin. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to here, and it's going to be in the MySQL prompt, and I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to hit enter. And nothing will happen right away until you go here and you log in again. So I'll log in with root, and what you should see is like 5 things here. You should see these. Now, these aren't databases we're going to use, but these are all part of the phpMyAdmin, and I'm not seeing any errors, anything like that. So everything's looking good. If I go into databases right now, I can create a new database. So we can create a new database here without having to type in the console. And we've worked with this in Intro to Computing and stuff. We can go into SQL and write SQL here. There's all kinds of things we could do here. We could go into settings. We can see our users' accounts. Here we could see All the privileges are here, even though this says no right now. I think this will get fixed the next time we restart. At some point, we're going to have to restart our Apache server. That seems to sometimes clear things up. But right now, we're seeing all privileges for phpMyAdmin, and that's what we want to see. So everything looks good right now. So this is actually what we want, and this is what I was hoping to do with Cloud 9, and we're able to do this with Goorm so far. And this, believe me, I had to put hours in trying to get all these little glitchy things taken care of. To go through these steps here with these little updates, it took a lot of time to do that. So that worked good. And again, I did this right from scratch. So hopefully that will be the same thing that'll happen when you do it. And I'm going to log out because I'm not going to do anything here right now. But what we're going to do is we can create and manage databases here instead of doing everything through the console. But what we're also going to do is when we go here, we're going to use PHP to communicate with that database and create web pages. And they're going to show up, when our web pages show up, they're actually going to show up in that URL that we saw, that one that said contents here. They're going to show up here as well. So we're going to be able to do all of that. And the last thing I'll ask you to do, at least for this part of this, is to go to project one more time and go to share this project. And if you go here, share as a link, if you click down here, you'll see there'll be some links here. And the only thing you really have to change on here, you can leave this regardless of container owner, any Goorm user is fine. Just change this down here to editable root. I just change that. And then what you'll be able to do is you can share the workspace as a link. I'm not sure if we have to share the terminal as well, but if you share this, you could copy the URL right here and you can send that to me. So for this exercise, we'll call this EX7, even though we aren't even doing anything yet. The first part of this is really going to be sharing this and seeing if I can get in there and see your stuff. It isn't like Python Anywhere where you nominate a teacher or anything like that. You're going to send me this, and then I'm going to be able to hopefully go into your container and see things if you have this set up with editable root perm. And if there's any problem with that, we might have to change. We can always add a user if we need to, just like we did here. In adding a user isn't that hard. I even have some code somewhere about adding a user, create user, so it's not that hard to do. Even if we have to add a new user with all kinds of privileges, we can do that if we have any problems getting in. But for now, that's all you have to do there is share the project. And if you want to copy this, you can copy this, and I'll just copy this right now and go into my Warren, and I'll go into coursework. But what I am going to do, just for now, just to test it out, I'll go into the last assignment. Here's this last assignment. I'll go into here. Now, I'll have this set up in Unit 7, so you can do that, or EX7, whatever it's going to be. It'll probably be in Unit 6, but still, you'll see it here for EX7. And what I'm going to do, just for now, remember, this is just for now because I don't have them set up yet, is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add a comment, and I'm just going to paste in the link and put it to open a new window just to see if I can get to it, because I have a Homa WCCC account, and then I have the account that I was just working on for my RCN, so I'm going to do that there as well. So I'm going to hit OK, and that way I'll be able to test my own and make sure that works. And then we'll go from there. And then what we're going to do is start working with databases and start connecting to the databases with PHP. But our first part, the biggest part, is seeing if we could use this Goorm IDE, because I do like the IDE, although it's been really glitchy trying to get in and use phpMyAdmin. I've been sending emails back and forth with them, but whatever I figured out, it seems to be working so far. You can just close this up or you can log out. So for right now, if you're seeing all those things, you can just log out of phpMyAdmin and you can close this up. And then when you go back here, when you need to get out of mysql right now, you could just type exit, and then I'll also go through the process of what we need to do to get back in again. You shouldn't have to do all these installs. You should be able to just start your mysql and start your Apache server. That's all you should. I'll make sure that I have instructions to do that as well. And right now I'm just going to hit exit here to just take us out of mysql. It doesn't matter if you stay in, and I'll go back out there. I'll just click on this thing. I don't need this open anymore. I'm not sure how this goes away. There's no OK here. So I'll just close that up again. I'll go back to project. That was, where was that? Oh, that was the share thing. So there is a button down here for share. I was telling you to go down here to share, which was fine because they have share here, but there's a share button right here. So that's, you can do that over there. or you could turn that off. And then this is the project, and that just brings this little window open, and it's like a little files area. And again, if you've worked with VS Code, that we may do that as well, that's where you do that. So I think that's all we need to do right now. And if you need to log out, I'll go over more of this because I'm getting used to this IDE as well. It's the first time using it. Like I said, I use Cloud9, but I do like it. I like what we can do so far, and the fact that we can connect to phpMyAdmin, the fact that we could write PHP in here, the fact that we can go into mysql and we could write our queries down here, the same thing we were doing in Python Anywhere. We could do a lot here, and the fact if we could share it makes it a lot easier than using AMPs, where we would have to download database files and send them back and forth in order for me to see them. Hopefully I'll be able to come here and check out what you're doing. I'm going to stop here for this video and then try that out and see how it goes.